question, actually. Is
Mhm.
there a spot in the Eightfold Path in the Eightfold Path that more people tend to start at? Is it something where non-dual insight is a more common beginning point, or is it something where absorption is more common, or are they all just person dependent?
Let's see. I mean, I've been part of the group at the temple for, since about July. I think I started going there. I had experience in meditation before, but got a little bit of a push to start something in a group setting. And I think it's been very helpful in helping me, understand and progress through that. So I definitely recognize everyone here from those sessions. Glad to be part of the discussions, though.
Okay. Anything specific that you want to share about your current experience, like, so far? Have you?
Um, I don't think I'm consistent enough in the experiences I'm having to really answer fully. Because sometimes I am able to go to a deeper level and uh, not quite the same experiences that you have described, but
Mhm.
certainly more than just what I had experienced in the past. But it's not something I'm able to get to every week.
Okay. Well, I wanted to start with a recap of what we have been doing on the last couple of days and the last couple of sessions. Of course, the what I wanted to do is actually give some perspective of your experience from the Buddha's discovery point of view, because I normally refer to Buddha's teaching as his discovery because he always went that way. He said, "I discovered this, and this is how you can really use it, or you can get benefit out of it." So, if I recap on the previous couple of sessions, and we talked about actually the first thing we talked about was Four Noble Truths, and that different, fact actually they are facts. So the when we talk about Four Noble Truth, actually we have been discussing the first truth as that really we are in a kind of uneasiness, right? And the people who have experience beyond that uneasiness are the ones, talking about that really non-self experience. So that means it is in fact, even Stephanie, in your case, you had that kind of experience even before, and then you were really happy all the time, right?
Mhm.
At that time you were at ease. So that is kind of a clear-cut separation of our usual life or the usual existence, and then of course off from that, and then you are in a different uh, state of experience. So that is the first noble truth. In fact, actually, it's been practically experienced by people. So it has to be like it's not like a concept of things that really you have to talk about. This is how the suffering comes up, and this is how it is uneasy, or those things are okay for this conceptual point of view, but in fact, actually, it was a experience. And then for fact, that really okay, we can be happy all the time, right? So that is the first noble truth, and the second noble truth is, of course, to why it is not all the time. So it arises, comes back again. Now, in your case, of course, really it's came back because the reason for that is actually we do have a kind of a very rooted longing, or very rooted attachment, or very rooted clingingness, kind of, craving, a little craving. And actually, the best word to describe that is actually thirst. It's just like we have a thirst for water. Similarly, we have a thirst for this existence. That is why we are really cling with this. And so that is the second truth. It says the cause for this dukkha. That's how it's been explained. And then, of course, the third one is, of course, that really you already realize that the you can be away from this suffering, away from this actually uneasiness, and then be happy all the time. So that is the third one. And the fourth one we were talking about last time, that there is a way that you can continuously go towards that and really have that experience throughout your life. Not like that really what you were going through, like, been there and then came back again. So to sustain that same thing, you need to have that fourth noble truth, which is the Eightfold Path, where that really you would have some level of understanding or level of wisdom to continue with that kind of experience. So it is sometimes we need a little effort for that. But sometimes the people who have experienced that, they don't need even an effort, separate effort, because it's in there, within you. You have that same experience during that 2 years that you had without any lapse, right? But again, it went away because of that really the little bit of a craving. Although we know we never noticed, but it is there, so it came up. So that is the four noble truth, and the fourth one is that kind of a path, a kind of a process that you have to embrace once you get that one. So,
Heard the basics that you've described here, but I
okay.
haven't gone much deeper than this before.
Oh, I see. So, just like you would have been learning about it, or you would have been reading about it.
Uh, a little bit of reading, but more learning from you.
Okay.
Once you're at that place of non-self, there's things that you have to do to continue to maintain the peace that you achieve with that, because there still is some kind of attachment
Mm-hmm.
to the mind or to the way that life was lived before. Is that right?
That's right. That's right. Yeah. So that those attachments and those kind of clingingness or that longing are the some of the bonding that we have with we have as our self. So I touched base on that last time as well, because now other discovery that Buddha made was there are 10 different kind of longing we have, we connected with. That is how our ego or the self is comprised of. So out of those 10, three of them will be eradicated or will be taken off, or they will be totally, completely vanish from you if you get this experience of that non-self. So that is where that really this Eightfold Path comes on a different dimension. So again.
What are the three longings that go away?
Okay. One is actually you want to write it down? Okay. I can
I'm
send some
curious.
things here, but the first one is actually the self-identity, that the me or myself kind of identity that goes away, because you realize that really why I should be hang on to this kind of a thing, and then it goes away. And the second one is that, of course, you realize that there won't be any doubt anymore, because you know that really, okay, this is what they were talking about, or the Buddha was talking about, because you are away from your uh, uh, the identity. And the third one is actually you will not be hanging on to any of those rituals or any rites kind of a thing. Like, you don't believe on some other people's kind of a thing that really, the people are, okay, if I be blunt, actually, like, you pray for something to happen to you. Those things will not happen, that for sure. It is all your action that really will give you the benefit. That is the uh, third fetter, if I say. They are called fetters. They're the bonding, but they're called
Mm.
fetters. So 10 fetters out of 10 fetters, those are the first three fetters will vanish from you, in the sense that you will no longer bound by those things after you really realize that first noble truth, which is actually after you realize that really this you have been experienced. If you experience that self, but most of the non-self experience. So, Eightfold Path. But before I go there, I wanted to get a little feedback from Stephanie as well about that three things I was talking about to Grace, that your self-identity and doubt and the actual the rituals or any other kind of belief systems. Uh, would you describe the same way when you talked about that your experience you had on that particular time?
Yes, definitely. Um, I remember I had a boyfriend at the time,
Mm-hmm.
and usually I'm very anxious in romantic relationships. And when I was going through that period of this experience of non-self, I remember thinking to myself, if he called me right now and broke up with me, it would mean absolutely nothing to me. I would not care because I would feel like nothing is really lost because we're the same anyway. Like that there's nothing that will be gone because it can never be gone. It was weird.
Yeah, that is the experience I'm talking about. See that because of you are not bound by that kind of a the wanting or craving for you, in the sense,
Yeah.
okay, it is I need this, I want him, or that kind of a thing is not there. So
Yeah.
that is the first part of it, that really the self identity. Now, when I say that your self identity is no longer there. I remember that Alex was saying that really even the some of the thing that he used to like the food or anything like that. But of course, it's there. But I don't feel that it is really you really need it, in a sense. It is like what you explained that your boyfriend about,
Yeah,
and
I was a lot less I didn't really feel attached to outcomes anymore. Like I had certain expectations, how I thought something was going to play out, but then when it didn't and something completely different happened and life threw me a curveball, when
yeah,
normally it would have made me upset, it didn't bother me. I was just like, oh, okay, I guess we're
yeah,
doing something else now. And I just changed the plan, but it almost felt like I had no preference whether this was going to happen or this or that.
exactly,
I felt
exactly,
more like I was watching a movie, you know.
very good.
I'm just
Uh,
along for the ride. Whatever
yeah,
happens, happens, I guess. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
that
I've
is
been
what even.
thinking.
Go ahead, Chris.
Sorry, I was just gonna say that I've been thinking lately, like the word attachments. I feel like that brings up a lot of attachments for people. When you talk about it to other people, like to them, it sounds like they're not allowed to like love their family or something, but like I can't care about things. But I feel like a better word for me, at least, is preferences. Yeah,
Mhm.
instead of attachments.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a good idea. Good point here. Preferences. But in fact, I put a different turn into that. If I say it's like, you are living in the present moment, right? That is what it is. Because you are living in the present moment. Doesn't matter what happens in the past, what's coming in the future, but you are really fully engaged in this present moment. So that is why you are not suffering. You are not really thinking about it, or you actually we suffer when we actually try to speculate on something and think about it too much. So that is what, not that really you don't have to think. You can think, you have to plan something, but it's only just planning. That's all, not mulching on it, kind of going around with that all the time. So that won't happen because you are living in the present moment. That's what Stephanie was explaining or describing, and even the Tiffany was, and even Alex was describing that because of we are in the present moment, doesn't matter what happened there. But it doesn't mean that really you are not doing something in the sense you are responsible for those things, but it won't impact you, right? It won't impact you as it used to be. And of course, that really at that time, if you had the knowledge of okay, that is what the first fact that really everybody was experienced for last 2600 years, you would have stick to that. You would have just really, oh, your the wisdom would have been really spark on it. Oh, this is what it is. That's what happening. So that is where that really your doubt would have been just vanished. But would have been here and there a little bit and all that. But still, in your case, I'm pretty sure that still you have that kind of same quality that you don't have any doubt anymore because the experience that you went through, you know that it is the good thing. It is what it is. And the third one that I was talking about to Grace was that really the rituals and prayers and then believing this and that. What were you thinking of?
I never really had any spiritual beliefs or believed in God or prayed or anything like that. I considered myself an atheist.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it
So
doesn't matter anyway.
nothing has really changed for me.
Okay, okay. Very good. That is why I do feel that really that I always talk about that really when you were born, you came up with that
Hmm.
because you had this experience somewhere, and then you are really trying to bring it up or they trying to light it up. So that is what's happening because sometimes it automatically happens. Yeah, kind of spontaneously. Some people just listen to things like even whatever we are discussing if they listen properly, they will realize, oh, this is what they're talking about because it's your intuition is there that really to identify this, and then all of a sudden you get there, you just fall into that. That's how I call it. It's fall into that rather than even you're going there.
Yeah, I think
So
if anything, this experience has made me start to become spiritual. I would not have considered myself spiritual before.
mm,
Um, I did not start meditating for spiritual reasons. I didn't know anything about Buddhism. I still know very little about Buddhism,
yeah,
but then
yeah,
I only started meditating because I was stressed and I wanted to reduce my stress. And then when I had this experience, I could not really explain what happened uh, with my atheist mindset. So then I started looking for answers and started watching different spiritual teachers on YouTube who talk about non-duality and stuff like that.
mm.
Yeah.
Okay, that is what, yeah. That is why I said it's an intuition that you born with. And I
Mhm.
know that on the other day, even Tiffany was saying that really the I now she wonder why she was drawn into this place and then sat down and then meditate. And it's kind of some kind of a push was there for her to find the place and then come and meditate. So those things are the intuition that really all we do have that kind of inclination we born with. So that's why I mean even people whoever comes to that meditation, not even for this meditation, so any other place that you are looking for that meditation and all that, because they do have some kind of a nagging feeling that really I need to find something. I need some freedom somewhere. So that is what it is. So that is why that's everywhere. I can see everybody born with that, but they are not allowing that to come through because of most of the people are working compulsively rather than sit back, pause a little bit, and think about it and comprehend what is going on. So very good. I just wanted to give that kind of a perspective. So, Grace, you can now even you don't need to now write down those three things, right? You know that.
Well, I was just gonna write it down to remind
Well,
myself to
there you
Google
go.
it.
I mean, I actually pulled up each of the things that you were talking about, the 10 fetters and the Four Noble Truths. So I've been following along, and I
Oh,
think what Gray said about, you know, attachment to uh, other people and the world, and it can sound almost like, we shouldn't be loving anything. We shouldn't be, caring about all of those. Um, but I think what she said really resonated with me, that it's more about cutting the preference for these things, because we still care, we still love, but things are always going to change. So we can't get attached to the preference of one over the other.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, very right. Yeah, I mean, the good that you wrote up that way because the most of the translation of this Pali word and this thing are really all over. Like attachment is kind of a more because what it meant was actually it's like rather than attachment you are holding, it's kind of your thirst, as I said, or the clingingness. That is the one that we are talking about as like it's not like a dislike or anything, but actually, of course, you have your relationship with everybody. But if you are too attached to it, like, think about a dog, and then you are too attached to that dog. Actually, we know that really in our lifetime, of course, dog will die. And then you really have that really sorrow and then sadness coming through. So there, it's not really the attachment itself, but it is the kind of the feeling of you lost something, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that is what it's talking about, not really attachment. Actually, that you feel that your your connection or your comfort has lost. That is the actual, the real translation should have been. I normally translate that as the clingingness. You cling to things rather than you hold on to this, but like you cling to it. Actually, it doesn't bother me. That's a good word Grace brought as well. I mean, it's not really bothering you, although the person go away or you lost your dog or anything. But it is, of course, a loss. I do see that. But actually, it won't impact you emotionally. That's the difference.
Yeah, you
So,
you would be able to accept that change has happened, and
yeah,
you can't undo that. You simply have to keep going.
yeah, exactly. Exactly. Accept it. That's another good word you used here because it's accepting, okay, it's that. That is what it is. In other words, it is like, living in the present. You are just living in the present, rather than trying to correct something or trying to get something from somewhere. So if I put it different way it is like your ego has just diminished, kind of. You are no longer that ego is not there with you because, oh, I have to have this, I want to have this. That's gone. That's that first longing, first fetter, and that's gone. And then the second is, of course, if you have that wisdom or the knowledge of this teaching, you realize, oh, this is what he's talking about. I can be at ease all the time. And then the third one, of course, that really okay, you don't have uh, anything of getting, trying to get something from, get benefit from others, in the sense, not like kind of a wisdom you get it. So this wisdom can come through Stephanie was talking about, and even the things like Tiffany and Alex was talking about, those kind of things. So when you have that kind of a experience, actually you have a wisdom. So that is what the on the Noble Eightfold Path, the first one is about the wisdom. So that actually now you know for something for sure. So I would use the word self efficacy in the sense that for you, it is evidence to you. You can be at ease most all the time if you really don't go too much attached to anything, but you accept things. You can be at ease. So that's the idea that really that's the wisdom that that person will get. And then of course the with that actually you need to have that resolution. That's why the second point on the screen you can see that under the wisdom we have 2 points. One is that really non-dual insight and non-dual resolve, where that really non-dual insight means that really acceptance in the sense you have the open mind. You don't hang on to, you don't cling on to one side of thing. That is why non-dual in the sense you have that really full open view, like the everything you need to figure that out, and then actually you will be more inclined to have your self evidence or the self efficacy of anything that really to accept it. And the non-dual resolve is actually, of course, you would be uh, more inclined to keep that way along the way during your lifetime, kind of a thing. So that is the person that who has got this kind of a experience, in the sense that even the closer to non-self experience, that person would have that. But normal, I mean, the other than other people, like any other person would have some kind of a turning point in their life to come and then search for this. So I know the previously when I had that my class series course kind of a thing. So one of the lady who came was actually Heidi. Heidi came to that class because of she wanted to know what is this all about, because she and her son had a near death experience. So she was away from her body for a while, and then all of a sudden she came back. And I have listened to these kind of stories from different people, and there are different reports as well when you go to the web and all that. But actually, I have heard from people, like even when I was in New Zealand, one guy came and asked from me. I don't know how he wanted to know about it, but he said that really this is what is happening. Because he said he was out of his body, and all of a sudden somebody pushed him, and then he just came back to the body, like you are just thrashing through something, and then came back to the body. And so those kind of experience will give to a person that really just to think twice. This world is the world that we are thinking. We commonly see, or is that the real reality? So that is another kind of a turning point that people would come into this uh, path of finding. So don't think this noble eightfold path as Buddha's teaching, or this you have to be a Buddhist for that. This is not, in my mind. I could see that this has been embedded into any other religion, any other great religions in a different way. So that means you are bringing your monkey mind or your way of living into some discipline and some kind of a uh, path that you can follow, or in the sense you can refine uh, your inner essence. At the beginning, he mentioned that as like, middle path, in the sense anybody could go through this one. And then at the very end of this process, people will incline to go into that their inner essence little by little. And that is the last one in here that really, do you see that the eighth step is non-dual absorption, in the sense that really you will get the meditative absorption, and then you jump into, or you just turn into that non-self nature, like Stephanie was explaining, right? You get that experience of, okay, we have to accept this. This is not nothing to die for. It is actually the things are happening in the world, so of course we take that. So that is uh, that part of the process he mentioned as a middle path, in the sense you are not going to any extreme, and then you are in the middle. But once you get to this, 8 steps, and then get that kind of a threshold, and then turn into the other side, or in the sense, turn around to the live in the present, then you follow this path in a different way. That's why it's called Noble Eightfold Path. It's the same thing, but Noble Eightfold in the sense now, as like, then now Stephanie was talking about, I know that what it is, but I wanted to go there, kind of. That's the different dimension of this path. So,
Read a book called The Untethered Soul, which I think is talking about all of this, just not, I think he mentions the Buddha a few times. And then I
mhm,
just read The Power of Now.
mhm,
Um, I guess my understanding of this before was that you get to non-self and then you kind of understand all these things like retroactively, but um, like you mentioned earlier that people don't really get to experience this in their life because we all want to work and learn and absorb as much information as possible. And I think that is a huge thing for me. Like I realized I have been such a workaholic my whole life. And my first inclination, like, yeah, I feel drawn to this and I see the truth in it. And so my inclination is to like read as many books as possible and look it up as much as possible and like try as hard as I can and work as hard as I can. But so I feel like I'm coming at it maybe from a direction different than what I thought should be doing, which is that you should just do nothing and it will come to you. But I feel like I have made a lot of progress on not I don't consciously choose to identify with my thoughts anymore. I don't take things personally. I still have a lot of feelings and I still
yeah,
struggle a lot, but they
yeah,
don't reach as deep as they did before. I'm not under the delusion that all of those feelings are mine anymore,
very good.
which that already has brought so much peace to me.
Mhm.
But I think the like the mind that wants to work and learn is like frustrated that I'm not making more progress or it's not happening fast enough, and I can feel that that is hindering me.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah, that's the part that really very good thing that you said that really this is not happening fast and all that. So that is the difference between those progressive path and the direct path. I
Mm.
know that really you are looking for the direct path, but you are in the progressive path still.
Mm.
That's how I see it. Because the when Eckhart Tolle is talking about that really he always talk about be in the present moment, right? So he always says be in the present moment, in the sense that really it doesn't mean that you are thinking about it, right? It has to be, you should be dwelling in the present moment rather than dwelling on the present moment.
Yeah,
Do you
and
see the
I think
difference?
it took me a long time to see that difference. He says one thing in his book that's like two things actually. One was like, okay, think to yourself, I wonder what my next thought is going to be, and then just wait. And then there's actually quite a bit of time before the thought will come. And then he said also that being in the now is like focusing so much like you see, I think he said that you see like a hole in the wall where a mouse just went in and you're like
Mm.
watching to see when the mouse is going
Yeah,
to come
mouse
out,
hole.
that
Yeah,
kind of
like a
thing.
cat, like a
Yeah,
cat.
that clicked for me a little bit. I'm like, oh, that must be the same thing as the 110% attention. But I
Exactly.
struggle I struggle to link those two because I know that my problem is doing too much or trying too hard. Um, like the advice you usually give me is like, stop doing that. Don't do that. Just do nothing. But
Yeah,
that also sounds like quite laborious to be focusing 110% or to be focusing, as if anything could happen just now, that much focus.
yeah.
I
That's the
struggle to
difference.
reconcile that it's doing nothing, but also trying really hard in one way in
Yeah,
terms of attention.
very good sharing. Because that is the difference that I am bringing in. Because there is a gap in even the Eckhart Tolle's teaching. The gap in the sense that then even as you explain, so the people try to do that as a explaining, and then your mind is trying to work on it and say to be 100% or to be like a cat just watching the mouse hole until the mouse comes. So that is you are doing it. So the gap I am bridging, or the feeling is that really with the meditation I am asking you to pay attention 110% only when you are meditating.
Mm.
So then only you can see that really the mouse is coming out from the brain. That is the mouse hole is in you, inside you, right? So that
Yeah.
is what I'm asking you to focus on. That is what I'm asking you to that, spaciousness, that inner essence, I always talk about just to be in the silence nature. And then actually I say stillness. And I always say that spaciousness. That is where that you have to pay 110% attention to while you are meditating. That is why I sent that clip to you as well. Because once you have that kind of attention on that spaciousness, it will come through you the different dimension that really you can be or you can dwell in. It happens to you. It happens sometimes people are just coming out from the meditation. Sometimes, like, even the Stephanie was saying that really she was just all of a sudden it happens. And some people actually who are listening to some of those talks, like, even I know some of the people who are listening to me on the other channel, they said that really by listening itself is enough for me to get there. So it is kind of that is why I call this direct path rather than progressive path, because you are directly approaching, you are directly uh, paying your attention to your inner essence during the meditation, because that is where that you cut off all these other things like sounds, noises, and of course the light or any taste or anything, but you are just going into that inner essence. And that is where you put that 110% attention, because inner essence, there are different layers of you, that bondings, which has been listed different 10 fetters and all those things. Those are the intellectual thing that you can learn later on. But as you said, that this is the easiest way. This is the most quickest way. But you give that 110% attention to during the meditation, and then during that uh, time that you are uh, focusing on your inner essence. Once you really go deeper into that, and once you allow that to happen, the example was like if you have a kind of a pot. Normally, say this is a little ancient example. So you are keeping a pot outside to collect water from rain. So the pot is on upside, right? It's open. And whatever the water comes, and then it collects into that pot, the mostly clay pot those days. But what we are doing is we are just trying to turn it around upside down. So after that upside down, the water will fall onto that, but it won't collect anymore because there is no that this opening is not up, it's down. So similarly, that is what happens when you allow your inner essence to come through you. Then after that, that clingingness, that attachment, that kind of a craving for anything will just dies away. And then you will accept things, as you said, rather than attachment, of course. It'll come to you, you drop into you, but you accept it, it's just there.
Yeah, I
That's
think
the direct.
right now I'm like spooning water out of the clay bucket. Like
Yeah.
it helps, but the bucket's
Yeah.
still there collecting water.
Yeah, yeah, it's still the pot is up on the side up, and
Yeah.
then water is there. You're just trying to, yeah, empty that with your hand or some
Yeah.
spoon or something. Now,
It's a lot of
that's
silly
the
work.
progressive part. That's the
Yeah.
progressive part. It'll
Yeah.
it'll happen. It's sometimes it works. So it might work too, but actually it take long time. And some people try to do that, and then and it's end of the life. Now you don't have time to do anymore. So that is the problem with this progressive path. But the direct path is not like that. You can just get there. You can just turn the pot upside down and be free from all these, the uneasiness, and live the life blissfully. Got it?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, very good, very good. I mean, especially on the Buddha's teaching, there are only two discourses that really people should read properly. The rest of the things are really what those are the sermons or those are the discussion he has had with some other people who asked the question from him. So then he addressed them on a different perspective. That is why so many things in the Buddha's teaching, Eightfold Path, Four Noble Truth, and so many things there, enlightenment factors and all that, because of he approached the person and then gave the answer for a kind of an antidote for him, because he has a different attachment. He or she has a different attachment. And those days, actually, they were very much, meditators and then have so many different things. They can have some psychic powers and all that thing. But all that is not nothing when you compare to this kind of a freedom. So that is how these teachings are really very vast. I mean, they have so many books and all that, but that is all because of that. Really, he explained it in a different way. But what he explained was this Four Noble Truth, nothing else. That's the core of it. So that is why I thought that really we should, touch base on that first and then go from there. And so out of that Four Noble Truth, this is the Eightfold Path is the fourth truth. In the sense that really, once you are in this path, you will eventually get that full liberation in the sense that be at ease throughout the life and then even the afterlife or whatever, if you want to think about that way. Because it's a matter of kind of turning that pot upside down before even you die. I don't know whether, Grace, you would have seen Eckhart Tolle one time. He's saying that really die before death comes to you. Have you heard about it?
Yeah, yeah. Or I
Yeah,
think he also says at some point, like, die every second to the past, essentially.
exactly. So that means that really that your ego has to go away. So when the
Mm.
ego is gone, you are free, and there's nothing to die anymore. So when I explain my experience, especially for the Eastern, with the people with Eastern tradition and with the knowledge, I always say that really with my experience on that day, I realized there is nothing called death or birth or death, because it's no longer there. So that's the depth of this experience. Very
Can
good.
I ask a question?
Yes,
So I've never
certainly.
heard of the Eightfold Path before. This is the first time I'm hearing about this. So I'm just wondering if I understand this correctly. Is it correct that these 8 items, it doesn't mean that they're going to happen in this order? It just means that we're supposed to focus on these things equally, or are we not supposed to even put any effort into this and focus on any of this? Does it mean that this is just the end outcome? Like, do you know what I
Very good
mean?
question. Very good question. And in fact, actually, I wonder whether you have seen the Eightfold Path as a symbol. It is actually a kind of it is the symbol of this Eightfold Path is like a, steering wheel of the ship. So it's kind of a 8 different thing in a circle. So
Mhm.
as you said, it is not although it is, aligned, so it is not a kind of a sequential thing. You can hold on anything and then steer the wheel. So you are on the spot, or the actually that you are perfectly right. You come with your inner experience. That's why you came up with that suggestion that really whether this is to be one by one or whether it is been actually this is a collective thing. That is why it's called Dhamma wheel. They call it that eightfold path is actually depicted in this wheel, and uh, you can start from any one of those 8 things. And so it is not a kind of a sequential thing, it is different factors. So, as Stephanie, that you were saying that really you could start from the 8 one, which as you did, because you have already got that absorption kind of thing. And then finally you would be you need to embrace the rest of the thing. That means you have to keep your wisdom all the time. That's why I mentioned that if you had that wisdom, you may not have into that kind of situation on that day, because it is kind of you are in touch with that you are in a sense. I was focusing on that Four Noble Truth, which is, we talked about this first noble truth as the experience that you got. With that
Hmm.
only, that really you really see what is this uneasiness or the disease that
Hmm.
people are living with, because you are away from that. Like, even the Stephanie had that, added a lot of things for that particular discussion. So,
Hmm.
and then of course, because of that, that this existence or this uneasiness just not that really static thing. It's just arising if you live attached to that, and it ceases already. That it's gone. And then the fourth noble truth is that you have to be uh, alert all the time, or in the sense you have to embrace these different factors we have just mentioned here. But
Hmm.
it comes with different. I'm going to go into detail later on in one session at a time, like, because it's too much. But the Stephanie brought up a good point. This is not a things like, sequential way that you have to follow a path. These are the steps that you have to follow. Although it's been called as path, it is not really a kind of a step ladder or anything. It is kind of a wheel of
Hmm.
that people will start from anywhere, from any place, because of that their intuition, their previous experiences, and all that. So that's what we are, concluding at the end of the time. I think you joined little about 10 minutes early, or I don't know.
Yeah, I joined about 15 minutes ago or so, 10, 15 minutes
Okay, all
ago.
right.
Yeah, so I heard the last little bit. I do have a question actually. Is
Mhm.
there a spot in the Eightfold Path in the Eightfold Path that more people tend to start at? Is it something where non-dual insight is a more common beginning point, or is it something where absorption is more common, or are they all just person dependent?
No, you're right. Actually, that is why this has been put into a kind of a sequential manner, because there is the one that really the starting point comes with that non-dual insight. We were talking about that before you joined.
Oh,
We
I
were saying
see.
that really, because there could be two different way of this, because on this path is been now, when I listed it as a noble eightfold path, this because I listed this as noble eightfold path because this is the fourth noble truth. But when Buddha started his deliverance at the very beginning, he talked about middle path, which is actually little bit different. I mean, it's the same item, same thing, but he said that it's a different approach for the people who have not gone through and who have not the experience, not had the experience of non-self. So
I see.
when the people got the non-self experience, he started talking to this eightfold path as noble eightfold path, because the people who had that non-self experience embrace this in a different dimension.
I
But on
see.
the other people, they go through this in a different way. And as you said, even the others, their starting point is the wisdom or the insight. So I
Hmm.
gave the example of, like, that Heidi, when she had near-death experience, she realized, oh, this believing all these things is not necessary. I want to find out what is going on. So that is a kind of a different stage or different layer of. So that is why it's called middle path rather than noble eightfold path, because middle
Mm.
path is the same thing, but middle path because of for the people to just to enter into. And then I call them, I mean, the in Buddhas, and then even my book, when you get a chance to look at it, you'll see that really I call them as a stream enterer.
Hmm.
So that stream enterer go through this as kind of a with their normal day-to-day life, but they are refining their understanding, their uh, uh, habit, their practices, like Grace is doing right now. You know, meditating and trying to find out what is this means, those kind of a thing. So once you actually get that experience of non-self, even for a fraction of a second, and then of course that you realize, oh, this is where that non-duality really impacting, because that then you accept things rather than, oh, this is mine, that is yours, kind of thing that you are explaining. Even Stephanie explained at the beginning. So that is the second layer. So you're right, there is a starting point, but this starting point is common. As you said, it's a most common thing is that, but it's not necessarily the starting point, because we have born with, or most of them are born with different kind of inclinations. So that inclination may be that it is your livelihood. It may be that really your actions, or it may be that your awareness, or it may be that your absorption. Like, I could relate to some experience Stephanie was talking about, because she all of a sudden just looking for something, and finally little meditation or something, she got that. So so this can start on that end too. But generally, as you mentioned, most commonly, people have to start from that very first one, because that's the majority.
I see.
Very good question. Very good question, and very good addition to our discussion.
NT, why are these all described as non-dual?
Good question again. This is, in the actual Pali word, is actually sammaditya and all. Samma in the sense, it is very hard to translate, because people have translated that as right. Some people have translated that wholesome. So if you're looking at the Google, and then you could see that really right view, even it was translated as right view, and right thoughts, or sometimes right concept, or sometimes right resolution on these first two items. I'm just taking that as an example. So that samma means actually not even the right or wrong. Because when you say right view, it can be right for you and the right for somebody else, or wrong for somebody else, right?
Okay.
So that translation is, I'm struggling with that. I'm not happy with that translation. So that is why I came up with, I think I have seen this as well. Actually, when you go to the real meaning of word samma, is actually, it is neither extreme. So when he was explaining this middle path, at the beginning, he said that really don't go with the extreme of indulgence or extreme of austerity. So that means don't go into any of those. So that is, at that time, the people have doing both things. Like, some of the people who were looking for this liberation, they were just, still even now, even back in India, some people just stand on one leg all the time. So they are just trying to, the stress your body, and then try to get rid of the body, kind of a thing. So those are not the answer. So in the same time, some people, of course, indulge in the sense, having a luxury life and all that, thinking that will give you the answer. No, it is not the case. Anybody knows. So when he delivered that very first sermon, he started with saying, you need to be in the middle path or middle way. And that is actually not to go on to any of the extreme, in the sense that there is nothing called right or wrong if you have the open mind. And then if you approach everything as it is, so then it is not right or wrong. Even somebody says something wrong, for them it is wrong, but it may be the person who's telling is not wrong, because he's telling it's because of right. So you can't judge him. So this is more like non-judging insight, or in fact, actually non-dual, because there's
Okay, that makes sense.
polarity there. Good question. Good question. So even if you Google it, you might see the different kind of translation here, because I'm coming from, with my experience, with my knowledge of now the language, I do see that really this is a difference, because it has been the case when this translation started at the very beginning. There were so many different things were translated differently. But along the line, I mean, some of the practitioners, they realize this is wrong translation. They change all those things. For typical example is that really this non-dual resolve. It was not translated as resolve in very old books, but old books they were talking about thoughts and they were talking about concept and all that. Finally, some people realize that really it's not that it is. This is actually your commitment to be in this path. That is what it is. That is why it's resolved. Very good question. Okay, you got
Excellent.
it?
Thank you.
Yeah.